All right, ready for another deep dive?
Always. What are we diving into today?
Today, we are going back in time, revisiting a story that, well, you might think you know. The sinking of the Titanic?
Ah, the Titanic. A story for the ages.
It really is, and here's the thing, before you think this is just going to be a rehash of the movie, promise me something.
What's that?
Promise me you'll keep an open mind, because we are going way beyond the love story today.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Beyond the love story it is.
We're talking about, well, everything the movie didn't tell you.
Like what?
Like the engineering mishaps, the management blunders, the whole shebang, the sheer chain of events that turned what was supposed to be this symbol of luxury, this beacon of innovation, into, well, a monument of tragedy.
That's a much better way to put it than just the ship that sank.
And joining me to, unpack all of this is our expert. So it's safe to say you've seen the movie, right?
Oh, it hasn't?
Exactly. You know about the iceberg, the drama. But what about the ship itself? The Titanic, what was it really like?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Imagine a modern cruise ship. Got it.
Yeah, I've seen those. Massive.
Now, picture something even bigger. And this is back in 1912. That was the Titanic, the largest ship ever built at that time.
No way. Bigger than anything else afloat?
Oh, yeah. We're talking a capacity of over 3,500 passengers and crew. This thing was a behemoth.
Wow, 3,500. Okay, so I've always wondered, with all that talk about the Titanic being unsinkable, why weren't there enough lifeboats?
That, my friend, is the first chilling detail in this story. The original blueprints. They called for 64 lifeboats.
64. That would have been enough for everyone.
With room to spare. But, and this is the unbelievable part, they ended up with only 20.
Are you serious? 20? Why on earth would they cut back so drastically?
It's hard to believe now, but, well, the designers, they thought the lifeboats took away from the ship's aesthetic.
You're kidding.
Nope. They were literally prioritizing looks over safety.
It's horrifying, really, that safety was what, an afterthought?
Pretty much.
It's wild to think about how that's changed. Today, you can't even get on a cruise ship without a lifeboat drill.
Right.
Which we can thank the Titanic disaster for that, at least.
Absolutely. Lives saved because of it.
But even beyond the lifeboats, wasn't there something about the ship's actual construction?
You are good. Absolutely. While they used steel rivets for a lot of the Titanic, certain sections, especially in the bow, used weaker iron rivets.
Iron rivets? Why use those when you have steel?
Cost-cutting, most likely.
Ah, I see.
But picture this, right? The force of this massive ship, this behemoth, hitting an iceberg.
Oh, no.
Those iron rivets, meant to hold the steel plates together. They popped, like buttons on a shirt that's too small, just exacerbating the damage.
So they hit the iceberg. What happened next? I mean, they knew about the iceberg, right?
They did. You're right. They had some warnings, several actually. Telegrams from other ships, including a crucial one from the SS Californian.
The Californian.
There was a ship nearby, and it specifically warned them about, you guessed it, the icy conditions.
Okay, so they knew, and they still hit the iceberg.
That's the crazy part. They dismissed the warnings. For reasons we can only speculate on now, of course.
Yeah.
But think about it. They were sailing at full speed, full steam ahead, through a known ice field. And here's the real kicker. The Californian, the ship that tried to warn them.
Yeah.
They had shut off their radio for the night.
Oh, no. So no way to call for help. This is just agonizing.
It gets worse. The impact, the one we talked about with those rivets, combined with the weaker rivets, it caused, well, significant flooding.
How much flooding are we talking?
The Titanic was designed so that it could stay afloat even with 4 of its compartments flooded.
Okay, that makes sense, like a safety precaution.
Exactly. But the damage was so extensive that 5 compartments flooded.
5. So there's no coming back from that.
No. That sealed their fate.
Knowing they were sinking, what were their options?
They did send out distress signals.
Yeah.
Using, what they had. But because the Californian's radio was off, it took hours for those calls to be heard.
Right.
Precious time lost.
It's tragic, really, this whole thing. To think that this cascade of errors, from the lifeboats to the rivets to those ignored warnings, led to such a catastrophic loss of life.
It's a stark reminder, isn't it? Even the most advanced technology, and the Titanic was the peak at the time, can be vulnerable. And that vulnerability often comes down to human error.
It's true.
But, and there's always a but, right? Out of this tragedy, out of this awful loss, came crucial changes. The world, understandably, was outraged.
As they should have been.
This outrage, this anger, it sparked action. This sinking led to the establishment of the International Ice Patrol, which, by the way, is still going strong today.
Really? I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. And new maritime laws, international ones, were put into place, requiring sufficient lifeboats for all passengers and crew on every passenger ship. And of course, it led to significant advances in ship design and safety standards.
It's kind of incredible, actually, when you think about it, that something as massive, as seemingly invincible as the Titanic could sink, and even more so that it took such a catastrophe to bring about these changes.
It makes you think, doesn't it, about progress and the price we sometimes pay for it.
It really does.
We've come a long way in terms of safety regulations, though, that's for sure.
Hmm?
Just think about modern cruise ships, the ones we were picturing earlier. Like, for example, the Symphony of the Seas.
That's one of the big ones, right?
One of the biggest, dwarfing the Titanic in size. But here's the difference. Exceeding every safety standard imaginable.
It's a bittersweet reminder, I think, that sometimes progress comes at a cost, and a very high one at that.
It's true.
It makes you wonder, though, right? What seemingly unsinkable, totally foolproof systems in our world today might hold hidden vulnerabilities that we don't even know about yet? What can we learn from the past, from the Titanic, to help ensure a safer future? That's something to think about.
That's something to think about indeed.